employees who have to take that idea, that new technology, that new process, and build it or use it, adopt it. And those are the guys that are responsible for making that small idea, that small strawberry, into something very big. And often the failure happens inside before you've even taken the idea outside.
So it's an implementation issue.
It's an integration issue, and the cultural acceptance of that idea. Not can I touch it or see it, but do I believe in it? Do I think that this is right, and do I see my role in it? And we've seen this across HR teams bringing in new processes, or IT teams bringing in new technologies, and marketing teams bringing in new ideas.
So particularly, Neil, I looked at your resume, and you joined the technical side with the creative side.
Yeah, that's right. So early in my career in advertising, I was doing more just learning the business, right? The account side and learning how to run projects. And then was introduced to technology and learned to code and learned how to design and freelance. And those hard skills, even though I don't use those skills every day anymore, they really taught me to put myself in the user's shoes. And I learned that early on, even if I'm designing an interface or designing a logo, I'm really thinking about who's going to experience that. And the reality is that same mindset translates really, really well when you move into marketing and storytelling. And so the blend of being able to have that empathy, but then also have the ability, the capability to deliver these often complex, thoughtful campaigns that get employees to, like Neil said, believe in what they're doing and know that it's going to be good for them and that they can impact the company and that it will impact the relationships positively. It takes that hybrid skill set to do that. Oftentimes we get brought in because someone has one of those skill sets really well. Like they really know how to manage compensation and the structure of the organization, but they're not classically trained marketers. Or they really, really know the technology, but they've never really been taught storytelling. And so oftentimes that's where we come in and isolate that barrier to change, and then apply our process.
So go ahead, Neil.
I was just going to pick up on a word Andrew said, empathy. When we're looking to the outside world, that is the core focus of what we're trying to do. Humans are emotional creatures, and we're looking to make an emotional connection. When those same people, those same consumers, then walk into work, we treat them in an entirely different way, with a very little empathy. We treat them very rationally. We give them information before we give them inspiration, and that's not how human beings work. We don't respond to those rational cues unless we already believe in the thing that we're looking at.
So who would your appeal be to then? Are you talking about the marketing department, the management, a combination of both?
We started helping CMOs, chief marketing officers, and their teams, and agency leaders with how to make a connection around an idea and how to integrate an idea into the larger organization. As we did that, we rolled into HR teams, chief people officers, IT teams, the CIO, and a new role, the chief growth officer, which is that sort of hybrid marketing sales position. And I would say now, for our business, we are probably 40% HR, 40% IT, and 20% marketing and growth. So we've actually made the move beyond and outside of marketing to those other disciplines where the need for what we do is actually greatest.
So Rich has given me the high sign to move on to our next guest.
But
before we do,
just a quick follow-up question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Rich.
This premise of part of your business model and your culture on ambition, and it's based on the happiness and health of your employees. And talk to us about this, how much people should spend on their consumer marketing budget, to that 1% to 2%, if they just did that, right?
Well, it's kind of a dream. It's a dream of ours that happiness, health, whatever you call it. Right now, it's called engagement, employee engagement, but it tends to be very rational and company focused rather than more emotional and people focused. If you think about the amount of money a large company spends reaching and engaging their consumers, $1 billion. There's a good few $1 billion marketers out there. If you then look at the percentage of that dollar amount that they spend engaging their employees, it's tiny, immeasurable in some cases. We believe that in order to reach and engage consumers, you actually have to first reach and engage your employees, because they're the ones actually out there on the front lines delivering service, creating products, and interacting with your consumers. Today, the most powerful part of brand marketing is probably customer service. It's that one-to-one experience I get at the gate when I'm getting on my airplane or on the telephone or online. And so our long-term ambition is for companies to think about the budget that they spend on engagement and divide it between consumers and employees in a meaningful way.
Yep.
All right, so you're listening to Georgia Business Radio Show with Rich Casanova and Artie Rudiman. It's your host live from the Pro Business Channel studios here in Atlanta from our Buckhead studios. We're having a conversation with Artie and Rich, but besides just the two of us talking, we're speaking with Neil and Andrew, the founders of Local Industries. So we've been talking about culture, we've been talking about your business model, your product, the ambition. The first word in your company name is local. So let's talk about the Atlanta, your home here in Atlanta, and talk about its footprint and that lifestyle and balance and some of the geography here and how that comes into play.
Well, I've surprisingly, it surprises myself when I say this, but I've been here for almost 15 years now, and I never would have thought that when I came here, but Atlanta's really grown on me. It's turning into one of the best places to have a company, really of any size.
What do you attribute that to?
Well, I think the city knows that, and I think that they've tried to cultivate that. But I think it's a lot more affordable and convenient to do the things you need to do to be a successful business here. New York, San Francisco, LA, Chicago, a lot of these other places that are pretty saturated. There's a lot of competition. There's a lot of effort to do what we're doing here, and this is a really comfortable place to start that business. And
with the tax incentives, I mean, the burgeoning TV and film industry, I think Atlanta is very pro-business. Would you agree?
I would absolutely agree. I mean, the film industry is booming. There's a lot of, there's a hotbed of startups, even in places like Alpharetta.
Right, yeah.
So it's kind of an exciting time. I feel like Atlanta's really about to pop off and come up to that next level.
Yeah. All right, so before we introduce our next guest, Artie in just a second is going to introduce our next guest. Gentlemen, how would folks find out about you and reach out to you? What's your point of contact?
Well, you can find us at localindustries.com. We're also on Twitter at InsideLocal. Yeah, definitely hit the website, and we'd love to talk to you.
All right, sounds great. Thanks, gentlemen, for being on the show. And Artie, who's Artio?
I find this side of the subject matter very interesting, and we certainly could have gone on. But talking about the happiness and health of your employees is a perfect segue to our next guest, Doug McCraney of Corporate Getaway. And Corporate Getaway improves the experience of its employees. And Doug, please fill us in on how you offer that and how you go about that. But tell us a little bit about yourself first.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks for having me on. So I started a company called Corp Getaway. It was about 6 months ago when we officially launched, and so we are a new company, but I come from a little bit different background than these guys. I actually come from a nonprofit world, and so I have the background working for a nonprofit organization for 6 years prior to starting this business, and come at it from the angle that I loved how much the organization that I worked for an organization called No Longer Bound, and I loved how much they cared about their people. I loved how they invested in their people. I loved how they took time out of each day to actually show how much they appreciated their staff and how they could actually communicate the big picture and the roles that we played and how it made an impact on the organization. And so that is really where this whole idea got started of investing in people and creating unique experiences that allow teams and it's a resource to teams that want to invest in their people.
How would you measure the improvement with employees being healthier and happier to the bottom line?
Yeah, so it's a tricky thing, and I think a while ago Home Depot did a great study, and really wanted to track employee engagement within their organization and how it actually related to the bottom line. And what they found out is that stores that were more engaged were up to about 30% more profitable than other stores. And so there was a direct correlation there, but there's been tons and tons of studies since then that just basically connect the dots between an engaged workplace and profitability within a company. Right now, about 51% of employees right now are looking for jobs elsewhere. And that's a scary thing. If you are open to new opportunities and half of your workforce is open to new opportunities, the ability for them to be engaged with the customers and the end users makes it really, really tricky to be able to trust them. And so you have to do unique things to be able to get them to buy in, and you have to build relationships within the organizations to get the results that you want.
Let's talk about those, how you go about doing that.
Yeah, so we create unique experiences for our customers to go through. So we work with companies, and some call it corporate retreats, some call it sales meetings, some call it getaways, but we create what we call corp getaways, and those are experiences for teams to go on, and we have about 7 that are built out within a couple hours of Atlanta. And so it goes all the way up to Highlands, North Carolina, where we take teams up there. We obviously give them time to meet. We give them time to work on some strategies and things that they need to work on within their organization. But we also build out time outside of them to build relationships. And one of the unique things that I actually found through a study was that one of the key things that keep people at their workplace is that they have a best friend there. And when I read that, I was blown away with the fact that, well, I'm not saying that when you go on a corp getaway you're going to have a best friend, but what can we do to actually move in that direction to create relationships where people get excited about showing up to work each and every day? And that's where that's what we try to do. We try to cultivate some type of experience for these clients, whether it's experience something on the golf course, whether it's experience something zip lining, or we're talking to somebody about doing a falconry team building activity right now, which sounds really, really cool. And so we try to do unique things so when people show back up to the workplace, they have this common bond that they experienced and went through something together, so that when they experience something in the office or in the workplace, they rally together and work through things together, as opposed to pointing fingers. And,
I hadn't thought about that. That's an interesting perspective, is that it can be somewhat easy to make a lateral move from one company to another if all things are somewhat equal. But if you do build those relationships and you have those tight bonds there, it's maybe a little bit more challenging, and maybe you can kind of push through some of the challenges you have at work if you look forward to working with the people surrounding you, and if you build that kind of camaraderie. So you're building maybe not best friends forever, but like I tell people, let's just be best friends, BFNs, best friends for now, right? So let's see how it goes, right? So you mentioned earlier that you started the nonprofit world and pivoted to startup. I mean, those are sometimes interchangeable, right? If you're a startup, you start as a nonprofit, right?
Absolutely.
So what's your mission? Well, before we talk about your mission, what are some of your challenges? What are some of your pushbacks of companies saying, well, geez, we can't just afford to take everybody, out of the office and on these journeys, and what if they, turns into a reality TV show scenario of, what are some of the challenges, I guess, with your model?
Yeah, so I definitely can empathize with those mindsets that, hey, when we take a team to this location,
yeah,
some of the challenges that do come with it, and they're real challenges.
Right.
So I don't want to completely throw them out the window, but I think that the opportunity far outweighs some of the challenges that you would face. So when taking a team like that, sure, there's the expense that comes along with it. But where I like to relate it back to is, what is the expense of retraining an employee? If you're looking at the turnover within your organization of how much it actually costs to retrain that employee and to attract the correct talent for the position, a lot of people put the Band-Aid is, let's just pay them more. Let's just pay this employee more. Maybe that'll keep them around a little bit longer. And fortunately, when you do have an engaged staff, I'm not saying that you need to pay your employees less, but it's not always about the dollar at the end of the day. It's about having an experience that you get excited about showing up.
Well, there's been tons of those studies that pay is in the top 5, but it's not number 1 as most people would think, right? It's about appreciation, value, that team culture, and that they feel like they're something bigger themselves, part of a mission, to achieve something and a give back. So correct me if I'm wrong, but your 2 major elements in your business model are team building and retreats.
Yeah, and we just
what's the balance there, I guess, of those 2?
Yeah, so most everything that we do is on the retreat side, but what we realized is we started forming this amazing network inside of Atlanta of team building things to do that we incorporated into the retreats. And so we wanted to make it easy for our clients to, hey, if they don't have the opportunity to be able to take their team overnight, to be able to invest back in their people if they had an extra 4 hours one day, if they had an extra 8 hours one day. And so I'd say that we're still about 80% on the corporate retreat side and 20% on the team building side, but I would say that.
Do you ever do like smaller scale ones? I was in the elevator this morning and met a guy from one of these escape rooms, right? That's fascinating. Have you ever do those challenges? And I didn't have time to talk, but I told him I was going to escape from the elevator first and then visit his property. But do you do like smaller scale with kind of short term, or rather than going on a road trip kind of scenario?
Absolutely. We have some things around here in Atlanta. There's some great local team building. There's some cooking team building activities that are pretty neat, where you take your team for just a few hours and you actually have like a cooking competition within your team. And so they have professional chefs that basically give you ingredients, and then as a team you come up with different dishes, and you get graded on different presentations and things like that. But just the communication, the camaraderie, all of those things that occur when you take your team outside of the office and experience and do life together with them, there's something special about that, and that's when team building.
Absolutely. So we just have a few minutes remaining. We want to open it up to the panel here, and there's some interesting cross conversation. Before we do that, Doug, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you and reach out to you and find you?
Yeah, definitely go to our website, corpgetaway.com, and you can see all of our experiences on there. We're adding those team building events this week, and we can even help with venue selection. So if you just have a retreat and you only need a venue, we have those resources on there as well.
All right, guys. I saw Andrew making some notes there, and but I think, correct me if I'm wrong. Talk about the similarities here about that employee engagement, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think we're really talking the same language for sure. And often some of the experiences that Doug is talking about, that's part of programs that we put together. When Neil and I, basically our locals product, our change program. So they're bespoke for that client, and they're tailored to meet the needs of what they need to get through that change. And so, these kinds of experiences are great examples of how you can put these programs together.
I think I saw Neil on his phone booking the next engagement for Corp Getaway.
I'm waiting for the discount to come across.
Exactly.
Yeah. I wanted to pick up real quick on one of the stats you gave. 51% of people are looking for jobs.
Yeah.
Think about that. That's 1 in 2 people listening to this. 1 in 2 people that you know at work. The stat we like, which goes along with that, is that 70% of people are disengaged at work, which means that 2/3 of us are unhappy with the thing we spend half our waking lives doing. What those folks are delivering, if you're a company leader, company owner, is not the best that can be delivered, because they're not inspired or driven, or they don't believe enough to be able to do that. So what does that do to your service, your product? What does that do to your churn and turnover? We think that this sort of employee contentment is the wicked business problem of this generation that is not really being looked at in the way it needs to be.
Yeah, and you just hit on the phrase I'm hearing, employee contentment. That shouldn't be your goal or your ambition, your objective. It should be kind of that they feel above and beyond, they're just content, right? They look forward to looking to work. But you mentioned that 51%, so I don't know, is it already, you or me? Makes you a little bit nervous when you get
I think it's
RDO.
Right. I was going to ask, can you? I'm sure the audience would like to hear it too. What are some of the retreats that you have, and which were the ones that were more effective? And is there any human story that you could share with us?
Sure, absolutely. So we host retreats anywhere from really large homes to huge 5-star resorts. So we really have everything in between that we can utilize. But we have a retreat out on Lake Oconee that's really neat, where we have 3 homes there that are anywhere from like 9 to 15 bedroom homes, and we can bring these groups out there. And these are massive homes, but it gives the groups an opportunity again to do life together. And so people are sitting on the couch watching TV during some downtime. They're having conversations around a bonfire as opposed to around a conference room table. And one of the things that I just had the privilege of having, I like to interview our clients after they get done and just kind of figure out what impact it made. And the huge thing that he walked away with was that he was able to listen to his staff and come up with they didn't feel the responsibility of coming up with all of the answers to the challenges that their company faced each and every day, because their staff got engaged in them and they were able to be authentic. They were able to be extremely transparent. These are the challenges that we're facing in our organization, and the sales managers actually had the opportunity to give feedback, come up with solutions, and they walked away feeling really good.
Okay, we have 2 final roundtable questions for each of our guests here. Before we do that, Doug, so when you do these events, do you structure the curriculum, if you will, or do you bring in companies or coaches or people that create the activities to, exercises and so forth? Or I know you work on the destination and kind of all the moving parts, but what happens when they show up? Who kind of runs the show there?
Yeah, so we build all of the framework around it, and we basically will either leave spots open for the organization to take care of their meetings, or we bring in a phenomenal guy named Dan Fry, who is part of Giant Leadership Development.
Yeah, I know.
And
LeaderCast.
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
Yeah.
So Giant's been a part of LeaderCast, and he'll actually come in and lead these groups and really dive into some of the deeper issues within the organization. So if they're not working on budgets and they're working on themselves, we can have a whole lot to play with.
We'll give a quick shout out. Are they still doing shout outs, or how's that? But to LeaderCast, if you're not familiar with them, just definitely Google LeaderCast. 7,000 business people appear once a year in the host city here in Atlanta. 7,000, simulcast to 125,000 people around the world. We've had the pleasure and honor to broadcast live and do stand-up interviews, roving reporters in a pop-up studio at LeaderCast the last 2 years. It's a phenomenal event and experience. If you're listening, definitely Google and check out LeaderCast. It's one of a kind. It's actually the world's largest single leadership event. Happens to be right here in our backyard in Atlanta. So gentlemen, our last roundtable 2-part question is, whoever wants to jump in first, what's a good day look like for you in your business? And then what's next? What's on the horizon? What's cooking? And if you can drop any scoops, that's extra credit, yeah?
I'll give it a shot. A good day, I mean, apart from today, obviously.
Oh, good answer, good answer. All right.
That's extra credit right there.
All right, we like this guy. The crowd goes wild, yeah. Is that what you call a setup in the business? I don't know.
No, I need one of those buttons that makes that noise.
It's an extra $1.50, but we can make that happen.
Where we're at our best is in a room with a client team, figuring out what the problem is, and then working together to build this sort of program solution. We kind of work in a different way to a lot of traditional agencies who will take a brief, come back, do the work, in their own place and come back and sort of present it. We're very collaborative, so we enjoy that the most. I would say what's next? We are opening an office in San Francisco.
Wonderful.
Oh, wow.
Looking
is that a scoop?
It's on our website, so I don't know that it's a scoop. But we're seeing a need out on the West Coast for the kind of services and the programs that we build. And because we're collaborative, it's kind of high touch. It's hard to do that. You know, we want to be building at multiple locations that can serve clients in that.
What's the timetable for that?
I would say that we'll have a team working on a couple of clients in the next quarter.
Okay. Well, that sounds like a road show for us. Yeah, we'll
72 and sunny.
Nice. What's a good day look like for you?
Well, I definitely mirror what Neil said about talking to the people inside the organization that we're about to try and help get through change. It's something that I learned as kind of a reform marketer is that the problems are way more interesting on the inside of the company. And that's really what is going to make or break what happens on the outside. So there's a lot of psychology and just human interaction involved that kind of as a marketer is just fascinating. So that's a good day. Neil mentioned the ambition out west, and I think we also want to continue to grow in Atlanta. There's lots of great businesses in Atlanta, some of them that we're working with now, and we want to continue to grow as a company and maintain that really inclusive human culture, as we grow here.
Well, I heard San Francisco is the Atlanta of the West, right?
I think that's how they describe it. Yeah.
All right, Doug. What's a good day look like for you, and what's next?
Yeah, a good day for me happens on a retreat, and things come out through a team building activity, and they're able to connect the dots between some emotions or some challenges that they're facing, maybe doing something completely different that's in the office, but being able to tie that same emotion back to something that happens every day in the office. So those aha moments, and then just being able to have conversations around them and seeing people really engage with their fellow employees. That gets me really excited, and just seeing those moments happen is why we created Corp Getaway. Coming up is we have offered a service. So we do the 7 retreats that are on our website, but we've actually we offer custom retreats all over the world, and so we have a partnership now with a large corporate travel company, and then we bring in a great meeting planner and then our team to basically create an experience that's customized to a company's culture, mission, values, and the objectives that they're currently facing. And so that's one thing that we're really excited about, is being able to take Corp Getaway all over the world, no matter the location. And then we're also able to offer our clients a venue selection process. So if a client is just needing something for a couple days, we have the expertise, and we have vetted these properties. We're able to actually point people in the right direction of helping them just with the properties as well, if they don't have the budget for the entire experience.
All right, so well said. Artie, closing thoughts?
Well, if you're asking me
insights?
what a good day is, I wake up every day and say I'm going to meet my best friend. And I do.
Nice.
Wonderful.
So, thank you very much. Do you want to close out, Rich?
Yeah, absolutely. So on behalf of Georgia Business Radio, Rich Casanova, Artie Rudiman here, and just want to say thank you to our guests. You can check out more information for Corp Getaway at corpgetaway.com, and for local industries, it's just localindustries.com. We'll see you on the next episode of Georgia Business Radio.
You know, when you talked about the psychology side of team building,
Yeah.
And Doug, maybe you drilled down on this, I find that shared vulnerability is a great bonding element.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's very human. Very human.
And I've even seen it here because, you guys have been more skilled in business development and marketing, so your DNA is more outgoing. But we have a lot of guests that this first time they're speaking in a microphone.
This thing can be kind of
Very
it's
intimidating.
very daunting.
And it's just a